Hi everyone, welcome to Eating Secrets. So today we finally have the cutting video for Garden of Eden. As you can see, it's just a beautiful pink shade with some gold and red swirls in it. And that's a close-up of the swirls. And then on the top we've got gorgeous, the deep red rosebuds, which I absolutely love. So we're just going to cut this, and I'm also going to answer a few questions, viewer questions. One little point about viewer questions, I don't answer questions from channels that aren't legitimate, put it that way. Simple as that. But if you're a legitimate channel and we can see that you're a real person and not a fake person, then we'll by any means answer your questions. So we've just got a few questions, but we'll cut some soap first. Just the other day I got a question and I had a look at the channel. There was literally nothing on it. It was on the 15th of March. The channel literally was just started that very day, the 15th of March, just to come and ask me the question. I can't understand why people need fake channels. So the Garden of Eden, it's a really rich, heady floral. It's a beautiful fragrance, and I've actually carried this fragrance for years and years and years now, and it's always sold quite well. I wouldn't say it's my best seller, but it does sell well. So if you like a nice, strong, rich floral, then this is the one for you. Although I'm not a lover of yang yang, it does have a strong yang yang note, but it's actually a really, really lovely one. And for me, I know a lot of people will often say to carry fragrances that you don't like. You know, what you don't like doesn't mean anybody else won't like it, and I sort of agree with that, but I tend to find that if I don't like it, I really can't sell it well, because I don't believe in it myself. So I really will only carry fragrances that I really like or like. So on to a couple of questions. One of the first questions we've had is, yes, and I have written it down because I'm rubbish at remembering things, is how do I get such deep colours in my soaps? For example, a deep red or a deep purple. They're probably the colours that the question is referring to. And basically all I do is I just put a lot of that colour in. Purple's always been a difficult one for a lot of us soapers. I know when I first started using it, I had yucky grey and like pasty blue, and it just went all sorts of colours. But what you've got to do and be very, very careful of if you're putting a lot of colour in is it does make your soap move a lot faster. Now again, people that actually I've explained that about soaps moving fast, haven't I? Next question is how long, I can't even read my own writing, or how long do I leave my soap before I unmould it, cut it, and how long do I leave it to cure? as far as curing your soap, it really needs to be the full 6 weeks. That's if you're selling your soap. The only curing soap really, your soap is saponifying, but all it's doing is drying out, and it takes the full 6 weeks so that you're sure that every little bit of water that's in your soap has evaporated right from the centre of the soap to the outside. So I would always suggest the full 6 weeks. I know that in the past I've wrapped soap that wasn't fully cured, and of course it just starts to sweat in the packaging because there is still water in there that needs to evaporate. But as far as using your soap, it should be safe to use after just a day or two from the day you're making it. As you know, in the UK we have to have all our products safety assessed. So we really know, because we get the safety assessment, that our recipe is safe. If you don't have safety assessments, you need to get some pH strips, and a pH of around 7 or lower than 7 is considered safe. So you'll need to check what pH limit would be high and dangerous, and if your soap is that, then don't use it. So that's the best way to do it, is just get some pH strips and check what the pH level is on your soap. And you know, very often I've made soap and then literally used it the next day as soon as it's come out of the mould. How long before I cut my soap? So cutting my soap, to me, I usually leave it a couple of days, and I usually cut it between 2 and 4 days old. But when it's very busy, I'm literally unmoulding and cutting it as soon as it comes out of the mould. But I actually prefer to cut it after it's sat for a few days. So 2 to 4 days. But this soap has been sitting for a lot longer than that. This soap's about 8 days old now, and as you can see, it's still cutting nicely, more or less. Right, another question we get is about crumbling on the bottom of your soap. I'm almost certain that the reason your soap crumbles is because it's actually sat on a cold surface to saponify overnight. So the quicker you get your soap off a cold work surface and onto, say, a wooden surface, then it's not going to crumble on the bottom. I am guilty of doing that quite a lot because I always work on the granite work surfaces, and of course they are cold. So okay, next question, recipes. Asking me for recipes. I actually don't give any recipes out, but I am going to do a recipe soon for people, for anyone that's interested, and that will be in the form of a YouTube video. Probably what I'll do first though is do a video of everything that you will need for making the product. The tools, the pots, the pans, the bowls, the ingredients, that sort of thing. So that'll be coming fairly soon. But I'll do the things that you'll need video first, and I'll leave it for probably a month to give everyone a chance that wants a chance to make the soap with me. Gives them a chance to get all the ingredients in ready to go for when I do the video. I might do it that way. So there you go. This is Garden of Eden. And we also have some other questions here. Just a couple of them, I think. And the first one is about suspending things in soap. We're really talking about melt and pour soap here. I'm just going to cut a slice of my vanilla cream to explain what I'm talking about. And we're talking about suspending. This lady wants to suspend lavender seeds like this throughout the soap. These ones are poppy seeds. Now, I've bought all the suspension soap base out there. It didn't work for me. It might work for many other people, but the lady that contacted me, she said she'd bought the suspension base as well, and it didn't work for her either. Well, I've found that the only way that it works, I think there's actually a suspension product that you can put into your melt and pour, that you can stir in, but I wouldn't have a clue what it's called or anything like that. And that will help to suspend whatever you want to suspend in it. But basically, all I do is I just keep stirring it. I don't stir it constantly from the moment I pour the seeds into the melt and pour. But I stir it every now and again, checking it. And once it starts to get thick, then that's the absolute best point to give it that one last good stir, or maybe a good whisk with a whisker, to suspend your seeds. That's the way I've always done it. So we have another question from Karen in Toronto, and this is about saponifying cupcakes. You can put them in a box and then wrap the box with towels. Also, part of that question was about curing them. Yes, I would always suggest full 6 weeks cure. They're probably done after 4 weeks, but I would always leave 6 weeks just to be sure. But again, that's only if you're going to wrap your product in maybe some paper or some clear packaging. It's going to sweat if there's any water left in there at all. And then the last question, I'm sorry if I've forgotten anybody's questions, just send me the question again and tell me off, and I'll get it in my next video. This one is from Dana. This is really a British question for Brits. She's asking me why I use ingredients from overseas, but I actually don't. She says, I didn't think you were allowed to. To be honest, you are allowed to use ingredients from overseas, such as fragrances and things like that, but to be able to use them, you must have them safety assessed, because there are a lot of banned substances in the UK that some other countries use in their products, and we're absolutely not allowed to use them. So if you want to buy fragrances from overseas, you must have a safety assessment done on it if you're going to sell your products. This lady seemed to think I used a lot of USA fragrances. I actually don't. I don't use any at all. I don't use anything from overseas at all as far as ingredients go. Everything I use, well, I'm guessing it's not all manufactured in the UK, but the fragrances I use are all manufactured in the UK. And ingredients, they have to meet a certain level of safety before they're allowed to be sold in the UK. So all the soap suppliers, they'll make sure that the ingredients they buy in are suitable for use and for sale in the UK. There are other areas where this branches off to. If you are selling products to stockists, for instance, in the UK, those products have to be safety assessed for safety for use and sale in the UK. I have heard stories about companies buying in, I mean this is even with food and things like that, that some things say manufactured in China, and the first batch that comes in is of a great, very good safety level, and so it's very suitable, and all the assessments and everything are done there. They're perfect for use and for sale in the UK, but apparently it doesn't always stay like that. So if you're buying from UK sellers, as long as they have all the correct litigation in place, me being one of those, if you're buying from me, you know the products I make are safe. I've got the safety assessments. The ingredients are not tested on animals. We don't use any animal products. We don't test on animals. And we don't use any banned substances in our products. So selling our products, you have absolute peace of mind that all the litigation is in place with what we do. If you are scared about safety assessments and things, really nothing to be scared of. It's not as scary as it all sounds. And the wonderful thing is, if you have your safety assessment done and you've got your insurance, then you have nothing, no need to worry about anything. I just think it would be such a worry not to have the litigation and be selling products that could, you know, damage someone or hurt someone or give them some irritation or something like that. So safety assessments is actually a great way forward. I know a lot of countries are against it, but it's in this country it's really not that expensive. Some products are, but I think it's like, designer moisturizers and things like that. I was told you can pay up to £2,000 for a safety assessment, but I've never seen that.